Hello, everyone, and as always, welcome back to Strategy Gaming Dojo, where we find, learn, and play one more turn of the great strategy games. Today, back into the big one, Gary Grigsby's War in the Pacific Admirals Edition. This is our play-by-email challenge with the devilish Mr. Lodrick, and we're going to see what Lodrick had in store for us on January 20th and January 21st of 1942. Now, last turn was a little quieter. As I've mentioned several times, this game's had more action in the first 6 weeks than I've seen in some games in the first year. Now, that's not necessarily a good thing, as the allied player. Really, the first 18 months of the war. Well, I wouldn't go that far. The first 10 months of the war, 8 to 10 months of the war, the less action, the better, because mostly what you're doing is trying to get your assets into place. Um, get those islands built up. You're trying to get Australia and India built up. Any action is probably because the Japanese are doing damage to you and not the other way around. So the less action, the better. That doesn't make for very stunning television, though. So, okay, I mean, I guess I'm happy that this has been a really interesting game. Not as happy that Laudric has had his run of it. So anyway, let's see what's going on January 20th, 21st, 1942. When we come back next time, when I see you next time, well, I don't know if I'm going to see you. When you hear me next time, I think we're going to really look at China, because China is becoming a problem, and is that problem's only going to grow if we can't get it under control. So anyway, let's go. Let's see what's happening. And we're off. Yeah, last turn, there was a little bit of the mop up of the disaster by Suva. Um, that was kind of the main action last time. Now, of course, he's attacking on the ground at different places. He's in good position in the Philippines to eventually take all American forces out, American and Filipino forces, and force a surrender there around the Clark Field, Bataan area. Okay, this is off of India. Looks like he's got a couple of battleships up here. Not sure what we're floating around. It's just a local minesweeper. It is sunk. We've lost another minesweeper, damn it. Two battleships. Looks like he's got six destroyers and two battleships in this group. Good to know. Now, we're not necessarily in the greatest of positions here to strike back at him. The British do have some bit of a naval fleet out here, but we really don't have any battleships yet. The Royal Sovereign's coming in. The Hermes is the battleship Royal Sovereign back at Aden. The Hermes is getting repaired. We're sending that back to Aden. We've also now got the Indomitable, which is the new British uh, carrier, but the problem is if we come down here with a carrier, he's going to respond with more carriers, so we got to be careful with that. That being said, we do have some torpedo bombers at Colombo that I'd love to see get after a couple of battleships, because it doesn't look like he has air power there. Okay, now he's got a task force coming down the western coast of Australia. That could lead to some fireworks, because we've got a big part of what is the Australian Navy and quite a few British Navy ships over by Perth, because you've just got to protect Perth. You have to. If you can't get supply and fuel into Perth, it is going to be a very long game. And so I pretty much got everything bunched together that starts in Australia, even some of the stuff coming out of the Dutch East Indies, all bunched together down there by Perth. So, depending on what kind of strength he's bringing, I mean, we'll see. If he's got carriers, there's nothing we can do about that. But if it's just battleships or cruisers, we're going to go after him. We have to. We can't let him block Perth. Okay, here's an enemy task force right off Chittagong. It appears. These are got to be like little HDMLs. Yep, that's exactly what they are. They all three get sunk. That stinks. We didn't know he was there, and this brings up another issue that I wanted to talk about as far as recon. I know some people are kind of like, I don't know, recon, setting all that up is kind of boring or whatever. Uh, it's so important for purposes like this. Now, it's no big deal. We lost 3 1-point ships. We've got a lot of these, but that being said, they do have a really good anti-sub ability, and if you know he's coming, you can disband these into port, and something like this with 2 light cruisers and destroyers can't hurt them. Now, if he's got carriers, it can obviously bomb into the port. But if you disband these and don't have them in a task force, and he comes along with this group, they're not going to sink 3 HDMLs. But we've now lost 5 1-point ships this time around. Looks like maybe it's going to be 6. Let's see. Yep. That's the local minesweeper. Again, that's something you can disband into port if you see that coming. Now, we had some stuff coming out of Calcutta, so it's very smartly gone back into port there as he floats back around here to Calcutta. We're spotting a lot of different things. Now, I can tell you about half the time it's right, half the time it's wrong. Your coast watchers, a lot of times, will spot your own ships and be like, oh my God, they're going to Paul Revere it and say, yeah, the Japanese are coming, but it's actually your own ships. I don't think he has anything around by Esperance, for instance, down there in Australia, but we say we saw it. We've also seen a lot of things around Hawaii. Okay, here comes the air campaign, and we know what we do here. We see the sweep over the top. Lodrick very smartly does that. He's also going to sweep Rangoon. However, we've got some Flying Tigers there. Now, he's got 42 Oscars. I saw that we were trying to put up 17 of the Flying Tigers. Let's see how that plays out. Well, he still had 41 left, so we didn't do much. We did destroy 1 Oscar. He destroyed 3 of the H-81s. Okay, 3-1 losses. Not great. Usually you see the Flying Tigers do much better. A few of you have mentioned that Lodrick's very good about cycling his very good pilots and good planes to the front. And I think we're seeing that because when you play the AI, you will just rip up the AI Air Force over Rangoon. Now he was bombing, I'm sorry, he was sweeping above Tonggu. Now this is traditionally where the Flying Tigers operated out of. We actually have buffaloes up there, and we get one of them destroyed. So those are just RAF planes. They're not the Flying Tigers. Those are always in the H-81s. Like I said, they historically flew out of Tonggu. I've got them down at Rangoon. 27 Bettys. Now this is this force that's been kicked out of every nice place in Sarawak and North Borneo, and is just up here in the hills trying to play partisan. We take 34 casualties there. 30 more Nels in on this poor group. 34 casualties. Like I said, I don't know how they have anybody left. They're living off the land out there. Hopefully, they have some hunter gatherers along with them. 31 zeros sweeping across Batavia. We did get some B339s up, a couple of Hawks up, which is kind of a shitty plan. The Hawk's not going to do anything. And 2 out of the 3 get destroyed. We also lose a B339. The Japanese lose nothing. Not surprising given those aircraft and the pilots involved. He's got a sweep up and over Nanning. All right. Southeastern China, we've seen this game before. 9 Nels in. We take 23 casualties. Okay, he's really started to focus on Yan'an. Now we're trying to get units back to Yan'an, but he is bombing the living daylights out of that town. 3 damaged, 4 damaged Japanese plane, but holy smokes, 189 casualties. I mean, he'll take that every time, assuming none of those planes went down operationally as they were trying to get back to base. 20 Lily. I would love to know what his air losses actually are because we've damaged a fair number of planes. I don't know how many of them are just that. They're getting repaired, they're right back up and bombing in a few turns, or if we're actually doing some damage here. 64 casualties for us there. All right, he's going to bomb down here in Southeast Asia, or I say Southeast Asia, Southeast China, Southeast China. No Japanese losses or damage, 124 casualties for our troops. Now he's got Oscars coming in on Rangoon again for another sweep. He's got a lot of Oscars coming out of this base. He's kind of overwhelming us with numbers a bit. 31 over the top. We only had 4 planes up in cap. He ended up having 32. Nobody took any losses there. It's probably a good result for us, actually, given the odds. The Idas come in, 71 casualties. Now this is that group that's running. You know, don't walk, run. They're getting out of here because he's got one of his big boss forces right there. 26 Sally's coming over the top. We damaged one, 53 casualties. He's sweeping Tongu again. I just like to say Tongu. 5 Oscars. We didn't get any cap up that time. I don't think we have many of those buffaloes left. We maybe have 1 or 2 at most. At most. I don't think we have a whole lot left. All right, Lilies and Anns coming in on Yan'an once again. 2 damaged planes, 62 casualties. You know, I keep saying it over and over, but if both of these planes couldn't make it back to base, we'll take that. If they're both going back, getting fixed, and back on the line in 2 turns, that's not doing us a whole hell of a lot of good. All right, now this is out at Nanning, 13 Anns over the top. We shall see. 1 second, what happened here? All right, 13 Anns, no Japanese losses, and we sustained none as well. A lot of sightings happening now over Sabang. He hasn't even tried at Sumatra yet. That will be coming. Coming to a theater near you soon. He's landed, obviously, in Mindanao down here, the southern Philippines, the island of Mindanao. All right, lots of sightings. So he had his usual bombing runs, maybe a few less actually than usual. Um, it was your okay. This we don't want to see this Japanese aircraft over Diego Garcia. I've got a lot of things, and you can see we're seeing oil slicks, possible submarine, 2 Japanese ships at Sengkuang, but I've got ships hiding. Well, I don't even know if hiding is the right word. They came up from the Dutch East Indies. Some of them are damaged that I've got just stashed at Diego Garcia. So it'd be bad news if he's got a carrier out there. 9 zeros over the top of Yunnan as he sweeps that again. Zeros up over Sian. Now we actually have some I-15s and I-16s here. A very few, very small number of them. You just don't get a lot of fighters as the Chinese. And as you can see, we sent up 3 planes. 2 of them got shot down. That's going to be a usual result with those I-15s and 16s. Sonias and Lilies, the reason I put them up, you could hold them back and train and train and train. They're never going to be that good anyway. We take 15 casualties on that bombing run. And so sometimes, you just throw them up where you need them because ultimately they're cannon fodder. You do it, you hope to catch out some bombers and not run into the Zeros or the Oscars or the Tojos. But, Lodric's covering this so thoroughly. Now, against the AI will send up a lot of bombers unescorted. And you can put up some of those I-15s and 16s, and sometimes you get a free run on some bombers. That's probably not going to happen in this game. I mean, there's been a couple of times we've gotten some fighters up against unescorted bombers, but it's been rare, certainly. No losses there. Now, I spoke too soon, saying that the bombing didn't seem quite as severe this time, because here comes in the second wave. 2 damaged Idas there, 115 casualties. All right, 19 Idas on this group that's jumped the river. We'll talk more about that when we do the setup. I really want to spend some time in China this time because it's fascinating how he's played China. I would say he's doing it better than anyone I've ever seen or played against. Um, and it's been a head scratcher for us as the allies. I know I haven't focused a whole lot on it. I've been more talking about the logistical networks from west and east, but it's something you've got to put a line in the sand in China and cause it to be a stalemate. Otherwise, the Japanese are just going to have way too many forces. Um, Coming at you because they can release a lot of forces out of China, and bring them down to Australia or wherever the case may be. It just becomes overwhelming if you can't. Oh, okay. A lot of going on around Diego Garcia there. It looks like he's going to bombard Guam here. Okay. So the invasion coming soon. 19 casualties. Amphibious assault at Guam. Looks like the Japanese will take that in the initial stance. We'll be back there. I'm sure we'll see a battle in Guam again. All right, now we're on to land combat, and this is just southwest of Nanyang. We've got two decent cores here. Unfortunately, he has got a big boss group here. He's 463, 449, 440, 450. I mean, this is just a massive, massive group of Japanese soldiers, and there's just nothing we can do to stop them that we have on the map right now. I think it's a great strategy for the Japanese player. So many times, especially, certainly the AI, but even human players will spread out their Japanese forces thinking, well, I've got more forces than you do. He's balled them all up in one super unit, well, two or three super units, and he's just running around bossing everything. And it's very hard to deal with. I mean, here you see the Japanese took 754. We took almost 6,000 casualties, and that's kind of been the story. Now he's got, what I would consider, I don't know if this is a full, what I'd say a boss unit. This is a very strong unit against, these guys have been on the move for a long time. Luckily, he was just doing a bombardment attack there. 20 casualties for the Japanese. We took 52. I feel a little fortunate actually that that wasn't a full-on attack because he's got us outnumbered everywhere in China, and again he's not spreading out his forces. So as the allied player, as the Chinese player, oftentimes when it's spread out you can pick on something here or something there. As it is, he's got three super armies running around just running over whatever he wants. Now the strategy I was trying to play then is to get around him and get behind him and cut off his supply sources, which is really what you have to do against a superior army, right? It's kind of like in War in the East, when you play the Soviets. Your big idea early on is, well, try to get through the line and cut supply, because it's the only way you can hang. I was trying to do that. Well, he surrounded a couple of units that we had trying to do that. So we're reacting. We're reacting in China. All right, here come our arrivals. Motor launches in Singapore. The Probably the last thing we need. We get some RAF in at Rawalpindi. We got something up at Aden. We get two infantry regiments on the east coast of the U.S. That's fantastic. And now we're going to move on to January 21st, 1942. It's the ominous night skies as he unloads at Guam. Gosh darn it, he does have something down there by Diego Garcia. That would be bad news. So, I mean, we've got a decent number of ships down there. We'll also look at that at the setup. Okay, we've got probably some more HDMLs, I think, out here. They could be local minesweepers too. Yeah, HDMLs out here just outside of Calcutta. You know, on 2-day turns, we didn't have time to react to this. We know he's down here now, but we didn't know it before. And we've got, some task forces doing ASW out here. Well, they ran into something. Same thing up here along the coast. What is that? It's north of Cochin. Oh, it's up by Mangalore. Again, it's that same group. 2 battleships, 6 destroyers. We had a local minesweeper sunk. So I think we've lost a grand total of like 8 points here. It's more annoying than anything. You have so many local minesweepers, so many HDMLs. It's Harbor Defense Motor Launch, if you're wondering what the hell an HDML is. It's essentially just a ship that's meant to be right there in the harbor, but they're getting torn up. I use them for ASW usually against the AI or against a weaker player. I think in this case we just need to disband them straight into the port because we're losing. I mean, that adds up over time. We've probably lost 100 points worth of local minesweepers and HDMLs so far. All right, here comes the true invasion of Guam. We probably won't see that until the land move attack phase. Okay, surface combat enemy coming down the west coast of Australia. We're going to have to go really check this out because that is, one of those line in the sand places. Oh, Japanese fighter and torpedo bombers. So maybe he does have some carriers in that group. Interesting. All right. Well, that's going to spice things up. Carriers into Perth. We reported a periscope near Auckland. We've got to watch that situation. Okay, we saw that down there by Perth yet again. Okay, we got some air cap up over Sian. Not going to do much, I don't think. No Japanese losses. We lost 2 I-16s. Shocker. Okay, 2 zeros up and over that one of those bases that's kind of around Cheng Chao there. Okay, 2 zeros came over the top of Yan'an. 2 zeros up over Sian, so he's doing, his usual sweeps at the start of a day. I really like how he's done that. 27 Bettys bombing into our partisans, which is really what they are at this point. He's kind of bombing the ground. I think we've got 10 men maybe left there. Well, we at least had 7. All right, some Mabels coming over the top of Nanning, followed by some Anns right behind them. So the sweep comes first, then he brings the Anns in, but didn't hit the target. Okay, got some Nels bombing out here, 20 casualties. He hasn't moved in the Philippines. He hasn't moved on taking us completely out yet. It's starting to kind of drag on for him a little bit. Here we've got 25 Sonias, 5 Marys, 3 Anns coming in. 3 of those planes get damaged. We take 111 casualties to the southeast. Now, this is one of those groups I was talking about that I'm trying to get back around behind him to cut his supply lines. It's not working quite to plan yet. Let's put it that way. I'm certainly trying to get around behind him. Easier said than done. I mean, we are behind him. Then it's a matter of getting out, though, right? 6 casualties there on that bombing run. Now he's going to bomb into Yan'an. Okay. Wow, big group here. 54 Sallies, 36 Anns. We damaged 3 planes, 206 casualties reported. I mean, he is just absolutely, laying waste to Yan'an. He's turning it into rubble out here. We'll see. I mean, obviously the invasion is coming. Well, I say invasion like he's going to land. I mean, the attack, the assault on Yan'an will probably commence in the next week or so, I would think. I mean, he has just battered that place. Okay, this is a group just across the river at from Nanyang. Now that's good. They got across the river. Thank goodness. They kind of got pushed there a little bit. But I'm trying to get these guys back behind rivers or do something to avoid these super armies that he's got running everywhere. 83 casualties here on this group that's between Kukong and what is that? Kansen. We're going to try to get those guys up here. I'm going to try. That's another group that's gotten a little surrounded. Um, we're trying to surround him. He ends up just surrounding us. It's been a real game of cat and mouse in China with us way too often playing the mouse. 11 casualties here, 24 Sallies. This is that group in Malaysia. Again, I don't even know how these guys still exist. They've been out here for a long time. We did damage 3 planes on that bombing run, so hopefully none of those made it back. 25 Sallies in. This is the poor souls coming across the mountains to Yan'an. 25 Sallies, 1 damaged plane, 15 casualties. Bombing run into poor old Yan'an again. 2 damaged planes, 47 casualties. Yes, this bombing campaign has been comprehensive to say the least. This is just outside of Aichang. This is another group that's trying to hop the river and get the hell out of the way of this group that's got to have, I don't know, 4,000 assault value, I think. 25 IDAs, 2 IDAs were damaged, 46 casualties. One thing I've done here in setup and whatnot is really tighten it up with the HDMLs, the local minesweepers. I've disbanded a lot of those. I usually set them up just because I'm like, it's kind of historically accurate or what. There are a lot of places you don't need minesweepers, at least not now, that's for certain. 9 ANs come in, 7 casualties. Okay, this group outside of Nanyang is going to get bombed yet again. No Japanese aircraft took damage. 55 casualties. Poor Yan'an. Talk about a firebombing campaign. 1 damaged plane, 23 casualties in Yan'an this time. All right, he's flying a sweep out over here. He knows we've got some flying tigers in the area or other Chinese aircraft, and so he's trying to pick those off. But sometimes they get up in caps, sometimes they don't. They didn't there. The zeros over Yan'an again. Sounds like a good World War II movie. Zeros over Yan'an. I'd certainly watch it. Okay, well, those were actually, we'll talk about that here in a second. We just got a good sighting down by Perth, which is we sighted float planes. Now, we had been being told that we were spotting torpedo bombers and fighters, but now that we've spotted a float plane, it's very likely that those aren't carriers. I was going to be shocked if he had his carriers down by Perth at this point. And I think maybe we've just gotten some bad intel along the way. And now we've seen a float plane down there. 20 zeros up over the top of Batavia. We lose the one B339 we even put in the air. No Japanese losses. So if that is a float plane down there, that likely points to a cruiser or a light cruiser because they do have, float planes that fly off of them as recon type planes. You see the buffaloes here in Tongu fighting with some Oscars. I say buffaloes. It was one buffalo. Nobody took any losses there. Let's hope that that's what that is down there by Perth because his carriers down there would cause a logistical nightmare. All right, Tojo's over the top of Cheng Shao. I think I called that Cheng Chao before. This is Cheng Chao. This is Cheng Shao. Easy mistake, even though I'm a local. Just outside of Nanyang, spotting, spotting, spotting. Everywhere is a Japanese aircraft, it seems. Our people are skittish right now. They hear a little bit of rumble. It could be lightning and thunder in the distance. They think it's Japanese aircraft. All right. Got some combining going on. We'll see if we had any ground fighting this time. That always comes near the end. There's an amphibious task force off of Balikpapan, including the battleship Issei. Sometimes the guns at Balikpapan. Okay, there we go. Now, interesting. Pre-invasion action off of Balikpapan. The coastal guns fire back. I love it. Gives you an exclamation point. You're damn right they did. 63 coastal gunshots fired in self-defense. The Is this the Issei? I think it is. It's not the ice. I doubt. It's probably the Issei. Shell hits one. The Mutsu shell hits one. This AK, the Yamura Maru, shell hits four. DMS on fire. The AMC, nope. DMS here, W12, heavy fire. Wow, that's a great, great result. That's probably the best result we've had in the game so far. Our big coastal guns at Balikpapan. Now, I always joked in our first playthrough um, about the guns of Tarakan because usually it just seems the guns, shooting out at Tarakan just rip things apart. Well, this time it's the guns of Balikpapan, and we've hit two battleships. Now, who knows what kind? They could have just, dented the belt armor. We don't have any idea of what it actually did, but I'll certainly take the fact that we hit it with a shell as a positive. Okay, Japanese ground losses. Now, we didn't stop the actual amphibious assault. He is getting troops off here. Unloading on the beach at Balikpapan. He took 29 casualties as he's unloading there. And now he's unloading at Guam. I would say he's probably been a little slower branching out from truck and similar areas down to his southeast. So truck, Canton, down that way. He really hasn't shown any interest in going that way. All right, we've got some ground combat here in southeastern China. We actually have, for us, a halfway decent force, but these guys have been on the move forever, and he's got a lot, a lot. We'll go look at the exact number, but this is, kind of a super army down here. He's got 55,000 troops. Now, we had 26,000, but look how much he outguns us. He's actually got vehicles. We don't. Adjusted 1919 to 442, and well, it was, gosh, after all of that, it was a bombardment. When he bombards, he's just lobbing artillery shells at us. He took 28 casualties just firing the guns. We took 34. So, not a whole lot of damage for that. But this is the big one. He's assaulting Sian. And this is an incredibly bold move, I would say, by Mr. Laudrick here, because Sian is really one of your most important places as the Chinese player, or at least it is the way I play. I've never seen anyone go after Nanyang and Sian so fast, but it's a really good idea. And quite frankly, he's going to take it. We'll go look at all the numbers here. But yes, the Japanese have now taken Nanyang and Sian. Now you can see why I started to pull out here of Luoyang and Cheng Chao. Luckily, I've already got these guys marching this way because this would have put us in a completely untenable logistical situation. There's just no way to get supply into those bases with both Nanyang and Sian gone. I'll be honest with you, I don't think I've ever really lost Sian. Um, Here we are. That's what makes the game fun. I'm glad. That's why I'm glad we're playing Lodric. He's a hell of a player. Okay. 75,000 troops, essentially, is what they brought here. They went shock attack. Interesting. We had a defending force of nearly 46,000 men. I mean, that's a big force for us. 310 guns. But as you can see, when he balls them all up into these super armies, 665 and 274, he's got tanks, he's got a lot of artillery, he's got us outmanned 1.5 to 1. He ends up with an assault value of 2570. We had an adjusted of 880 or a raw. Did I call that adjusted before? Sorry if I did. That's the raw score, 2570 to 883. Once you put it through the blender, he had 2237. We went down to 282. That'll always be the case for us. We have bad generals. That's a big part of it. Assault odds 7 to 1. We had a level 3 fort here, and he just absolutely uh, banged away. And you can see what the modifiers were: defender, preparation, negative, morale, negative, experience, negative. Never good. He only took 6,500 casualties assaulting Sian. That really hurts. I mean, if he's going to take Sian, and the Japanese player can if he wants to, if he bundles up enough of his forces, but you still got to make sure he loses more than 6,500 troops. We lost 20,000, so it was about 2.5 to 1 or 3 to 1, 3 to 1 losses. And now we've been kicked out of Sian. That's hurtful, and that's why we're going to spend some time on China this time around because I'm not really sure how to react to that. As I said, I can't remember the last time I lost Cyan. Certainly not this early. Maybe late stages of some other game. 552 of the attacking force. We actually have 6,800 troops here at Balikpapan, so he's jumping off here. Now it's just a bombardment attack, right? He's going to try to soften us up a little bit. He had a 44, we're 248. Doesn't really matter. I mean, it's bombardment, right? It's artillery. The land forces are coming. All right, now we're expanding. So that's it. That's it for this time. Wow. I mean, the big headliner here, we lose about 8 ships worth about 8 points. Just nothing big there happened. It is causing me to turtle up a lot more and tighten up with those smaller ships. Again, a lot of times these local minesweepers and stuff, I put them out there because I'm like, well, they would have a minesweeper floating around by Calcutta. And well, Calcutta is maybe not the best example, because certainly once the Japanese get over on that side of Burma, or on the west side of Burma, you probably do want to do some mine sweeping. But some of these other places, there's just no reason to have a minesweeper out in the middle of nowhere doing nothing in a port he's never going to mine. And I have a tendency to do that just because I'm like, oh, I'm a completist, so I want to set up all the ships. But really, there's no reason to do that. And it's probably cost us, I don't know, 50 points, maybe more. I said 100. I'm not sure if it's that many because there are some places we're definitely going to want minesweepers. But there's a lot of places I've got them set up and we've lost stuff for really no purpose. I mean, they're not really going to find any mines. As you can see, we're getting a lot of planes in this time, and we will certainly go around and look at all that. We're also getting the tank battalion, an AA regiment, an engineer battalion, engineer aviation battalion, a construction regiment. another construction regiment, all coming up on the East Coast. We get field artillery into San Francisco, and I think that's going to do it. So when I come back next time, we're really going to focus on China and just go through it and see where we are, what we want to do, what are our goals. Well, I'll hope to get down by Singapore, maybe over to the Philippines too, since there's not much left in either of those places. Those could be easy to knock off as something we haven't talked about. And then I'm always going to go through the numbers and try to do some kind of big grand overview look at things. For instance, we'll go down and look by Perth to see what kind of ships we think we've identified down there. Anyway, this has been Strategy Gaming Dojo. Thank you so much for joining me. I enjoyed the hell of it. I hope you did too. Talk to you next time. Have a good one.